Hello, welcome to the Utility Impact Analysis training for pre-qualified SUE consultants. This training will consist of reviewing the guidelines when preparing a GDOT utility impact analysis. This training will cover the UIA requirements, UIA documents, GDOT UIA deliverable, and GDOT UIA conflict examples. Before we jump into the UIA requirements, we would like you all to be aware that our website has changed. All SUE deliverable checklists along with the conflict matrix spreadsheet is located on the SUE webpage. To navigate to this page, you first need to select Doing Business with GDOT, select Services, then Utilities. This will prompt you to the Utilities webpage. Next, you would need to select Subsurface Utilities Engineering, then select SUE Deliverables Checklist. This will allow you the opportunity to download all applicable files to your local drive. GDOT UIA requirements. The utility impact analysis are typically performed after QLB mapping is complete and as soon as preliminary drainage, erosion control, staging, structures and/or walls, and construction limits are available, basically 30 to 60% design plans. The purpose is to review all potential existing utility conflicts with the proposed design. Incorporate these details in the department's established conflict matrix format.
And now, let's have a look at GDOT UIA documents. Firstly, this is the Utility Impact Analysis spreadsheet that is used to document all conflicts. If you focus on the bottom left of the spreadsheet, there is an Instructions tab that provides additional guidelines for the spreadsheet. We will look at this more closely in the next slide. There are two sets of requirements to consider while preparing UIA, the Instructions tab and the checklist. These are the instructions to follow when preparing the UIA. The guidelines are straightforward, but there are a few items I would like to bring your attention to. Numbers 4, 8, and 14. For number 4, do not provide the main street names with the station and offsets. However, the side street names are required. For number 8, it is not stated in the current instructions, but if the amount of cut is a foot or more, then a conflict needs to be provided. If the amount of fill is 5 feet or more over gas or water lines, then a conflict also needs to be provided. For number 14, regarding conflicts that have a range, to add to what the instructions state, if the utility in this case is a telecom, which conflicts with the cut limits, a storm system, and then a ditch, a different conflict number should be shown for each conflict instead of the same conflict number. We will go over an example of this situation during the presentation. As a general guideline, if a utility facility is within 2 feet of a drainage structure, a storm drain, or a traffic control pole, or other similar structures, then add this as a potential conflict on the UIA. The reason being, when a contractor goes to install these features, they need at least a foot on either side of the feature to install. This is the UIA SUE deliverables checklist that provides the guideline for utility impact analysis deliverables. Here are the different types of projects for the UIA. This determines the requirements for the information gathered within the UIA. If you notice, there are different sizes of utilities that are required for each project type. Take a moment to think if you are aware of what PID stands for. PID stands for Public Interest Determination Project. These are projects where the department will pay for the relocation of all utilities within the project limits if the utility owner agrees. These are the required project files needed to perform a complete utility impact analysis. We know this is early in the project development, so not all project files will be available, but these are necessary to make the UIA usable for the next steps in the SUE process. Ensure these reference files are included with your submittal. Omitting these files would be considered an incomplete submittal and may ultimately delay review and/or acceptance. Regarding the utility owner abbreviations, these abbreviations must match the utility owner abbreviations that were used in the QLB deliverable. This is so that there is consistency between both deliverables. The same is true for utility feature abbreviations. The UIA spreadsheet abbreviations must match those used here. Here is the utility key with the utilities matching their respective colors. And here is an example of the utility owners shown in the spreadsheet. You will notice that only the utility owners with conflicts are placed in the spreadsheet. Not all of the utility owners found during the QLB SUE investigation will be noted here. Here are the utility abbreviations used within the spreadsheet. Only the abbreviations actually used are shown here, not all those provided in the QLB SUE legend. For example, if an asbestos concrete abbreviation is used in the project, but that pipe is not in conflict, it is not necessary to show the asbestos concrete abbreviation on this abbreviation list.
Here, we will discuss what will be submitted to GDOT when completing a UIA. The UIA deliverable will include the UIA spreadsheet, the UIA checklist, a PDF named with the project ID _UIA that will show all the conflict circles on each of the plan sheets, and the deliverable will also include all of the MicroStation DGN files used to create the UIA. It is important to remember that all of these files should be submitted with each submittal to GDOT. The final submittal will include the signed and sealed PDF of the UIA spreadsheet and the UIA checklist. Here is an example of a completed UIA conflict matrix. Here is a zoomed in portion of the completed UIA conflict matrix. As noted earlier in the presentation, columns A through F and column N will be filled out for the initial submittal.
Okay, thank you. We're going to now cover GDOT UIA conflict examples. So these are just examples. There may be some other issues or conflicts that you may come across that we don't cover, but hopefully this gives you a better idea of what the SUE office will be expecting for your UIA conflicts. So in our request or in our checklist, we are requesting you guys to use the staging plans. Now, someone may ask, why are we concerned about staging plans? Well, this slide shows you in yellow the issues that may be come across when staging plans are used in your UIA. Here we have an example of temporary drop inlets and pipes tying to proposed catch basins. What you see highlighted in yellow and zoomed into is an 18-inch proposed pipe that's only for temporary use. This will not be in the final design. This next slide shows both conditions. The pipe on the left-hand side is a 30-inch permanent pipe. However, the smaller 24-inch pipe that's to the right of it is a temporary pipe that's causing a conflict with the water line. Let's see how this is displayed on the utility impact analysis. In the utility impact analysis, conflict number 111 is the 30-inch pipe, drainage pipe, between structures C27 and C27A. However, conflict 112 is the temporary 24-inch drainage pipe that's in conflict with the 12-inch water line. And this is how that is displayed in the UIA spreadsheet. Also, the staging plans will provide locations of temporary pavement that's going to be outside of the final construction pavement. And this may cause utility conflicts as well. This slide shows the temporary pavement with the green pattern circled in red. Let me get my pointer. Okay, here's my pointer. So as you can see, this is the temporary pavement here, circled in red with the green pattern. As you notice, this here is the existing road that swings around like this with the purple outline. And this here is the new proposed side street, and the green is the solid line is the new curb and gutter. So what you see in conflict here with the temporary pavement, you'll see there's a fiber optic TV line that comes across under that temporary pavement. We also have a 6-inch unknown type water line, abandoned water line, that's in conflict. And there's also a small piece of this 20-inch DIP water line that's in conflict. So in your UIA, what we would like to see is a conflict number here, the same conflict number here to show that station range for this fiber optic cable. A similar situation for this water line, abandoned water line, we want to have a conflict number here, the same conflict number here with station range. And for this water line though, since the conflict with the temporary pavement is so short or so small, that we believe that only one conflict point in the middle will be okay to be shown in the utility impact analysis. Okay, for these next few slides, we're going to follow this gas line. You see the G gas line in yellow. This gas line is going to be an example of number 14 in the utility impact analysis instructions in the spreadsheet. And number 14 in that spreadsheet talks about one utility in conflict with different types of proposed features. And so this these examples are going to show you how to display them, each of the conflicts in the utility impact analysis. All right, let's start at the beginning. So this gas line, starting at the beginning of the start of the project, the gas line is in conflict with the proposed ditch. So we have the start of the conflict here. You can use your engineering judgment you could start it prior to this point, because in order to dig this ditch, you will have to go a little bit outside of these lines for that ditch, and it may cause a conflict before this point. And you see this conflict will start here, and we'll have a range that starts here and follows this conflict all the way over to here, and this is where that conflict will end. So in the UIA, for conflict number 1, we have the station range, 15 plus 74, 57, left 57 feet, to 18 plus 94 left 56 feet. It's a 4-inch plastic gas line, and the conflicts are the proposed ditch line and the cut line. And this is how it'll be displayed in the UIA. As we follow that gas line further, here's where the conflict C1, the gas line is in conflict with the cut line. However, the next conflict for this gas line, if we follow it, is with this 18-inch pipe, this 18-inch storm pipe that's between B1 and B2. So we're calling this conflict 20. The reason why we change conflict numbers is because this cut line and ditch line is a different feature than the pipe. That's why we give it a different conflict number. So we go to the spreadsheet. Here the spreadsheet, it shows that spot conflict with the drainage pipe. And the conflict is between structures B1 and B2, and it's in conflict with the proposed 18-inch drainage pipe. If we continue to move along and follow this gas line, the next conflict point is conflict 105. Conflict 105, the gas line is in conflict with this drainage here. This is crossing this drainage here, and it's crossing this drainage here again. So because this is a continuous system, it's not connected to the previous system between B1 and B2. This is a continuous drainage system. We will keep the same conflict number throughout. There's no need to put a conflict number in the middle, but we want the conflict numbers to be at the start of the conflict and at the end of the conflict. How would that be displayed in the UIA? So we have conflict 105, station 2232. This is where the conflict begins, and then station 24 plus 34. This is where the conflict ends. And the conflicts are between B2A and B3A and B3A to B4, those structures. And it's 18-inch drainage pipe, that's the conflict. Moving along and following the gas line, here is the last conflict with that drainage pipe system. And now you see the gas line is continuing along this cut line, and it crosses the cut lines here and here. So the conflict number changed again. Now we're at C11, and this is the start of the conflict, and this is the end of the conflict here. And how's that displayed in the UIA? Start station 25 plus 39, end station 25 plus 69, and the cut is a potential 4-foot deep cut for that cut line. This is based on the cross sections. And this is how this gas line starting at station 15 to all the way and ending at station 25. This is where all these conflicts and how they will be displayed for this gas line. All right, moving on to another scenario. Full depth pavement. Utilities that will be under the road bed and potential full depth pavement. Well, full depth pavement is proposed by the project, we need to show these full depth pavement as conflicts in the UIA. Here we have the sanitary sewer line that's in conflict with the proposed full depth pavement. And we also have these two telecom duct bank lines that are going to be in potential conflict. So these must be shown on the UIA. How would this be displayed or shown? So we have conflict 34, the start conflict at this station, it ends at this station. And as you see in the description, it says sanitary sewer in potential conflict with pavement cut. And the approximate cut depth is a maximum 2.5 feet. And then, since the start and the end stations for both of those telecom duct banks are the same, then we provided them as under the same conflict number. So conflict 35, and there's an unknown size duct that's in potential conflict with the pavement cut, a maximum of 2.3 feet cut based on the cross sections. And then we also have that other telecom duct that's unknown size duct 144 and 432 fiber optic. That potential conflict with the pavement cut is a maximum of 2.2 feet cut, because they're slightly off from each other. But we didn't want to show two different conflict numbers at the same location. It would cause a lot of clutter. So how are these presented? Now, this is how those are presented in the UIA. And how do we determine how much cut? Well, we're focused in on, at that station, 34 plus 50. The telecom facilities are somewhere in this location. And the cross section has the dashed line, which represents the existing ground. And then this solid black line here is going to be the top of the proposed pavement. However, in order to build that proposed pavement up, they're going to have to cut all the way down here and have this subgrade base. And because that subgrade base and that cut is going to be over a foot, then we must put these conflicts in the UIA to determine if test holes will be done in the future or if those utilities will be in conflict with this proposed cut. All right. Another location of full depth pavement. This is at the start of the project. And as you see, this is a little bit different scenario than the other one, because even though that these three utilities, the conflict starts at the same location. However, because they don't end at the same location, we had to put or use different conflict numbers for each of these. So the water line, there's the unknown size type telecom, and then there's a 3x3 duct bank. How's this displayed in the UIA? Well, we see here that the water line starts at station 19 plus 49, similar to the others. However, the end station for the water line is at 21, station 21 plus 51. For the first telecom, The end station is at 2074, and then the second telecom, the end conflict is at 2153. So that's why we use 3 different conflict numbers. And you see that the pavement cuts are a little bit different because of the location of these utilities when we looked at the cross sections. So here are the cross sections. At station 19 plus 50, I think thought I had another blow up of this, but you see the dash line is the existing pavement. However, they're cutting the pavement down pretty significantly. And that's why we're showing these as potential conflicts. Yes, so here's the blow up. So this is the existing ground, and this is the full depth pavement here. And that's why we show these as potential conflicts, because of this significant cut over top of those utilities. Okay, moving down in this project also has a bridge as well. At this bridge location, there are conflicts C4 and C7. 2 different conflict numbers are used here because of 2 different proposed features of the bridge features are causing conflicts. One is the bridge bent, and the other is the storm structure. So the bridge bent, which are these double solid lines here, is going to cause a potential conflict with the telecom line, but the catch basin is also going to cause a potential conflict with that telecom. So 2 different symbols are used here for that one utility. And this is how it's shown in the UIA. The bridge bents have a range because that telecom line was in potential conflict at the start of the bridge and at the end of the bridge. However, for conflict number 7, it was only a spot conflict with that catch basin. And that was structure number B1. Okay, finally, we're going to talk about PID projects. Going back to the checklist, PID stands for Public Interest Determination, and these are projects where GDOT will pay for the relocation of all utilities within the project limits if the utility owner agrees. GDOT needs to have a close estimate of how much funds would be necessary to accommodate the utility relocations and the overall project cost. So here we see there's a checkbox for rural projects, there's a checkbox for urban projects, and finally the checkbox for PID projects. So for PID projects, above ground appurtenances will also be provided in that utility impact analysis. You will include poles, manholes, vaults, above ground appurtenances of utilities. However, you will not need to include the traffic control pedestrian poles, any utility service meters, any valves, or pull boxes associated with traffic control. However, you will need to add or have in your UIA the handholds associated with fiber optic traffic control. utilities. So PID projects. The utility impact analysis must include 1 through 8 for PID projects. However, numbers 9 and 10 will be left blank. 9 and 10 refers to test hole. If a test hole is needed, you don't need to have yes or no in those columns. And 10 is reserved for the decisions made once test holes are performed. So the actual test hole number will be placed there. Number 11, though, is necessary. The utility impact as designed should be filled out with the estimated cost to relocate the utility. Excuse me. However, the amount of time is not necessary to be filled in. The estimated cost can come from RS Means Cost Data Book, and that book is called the 2022 Heavy Construction Cost Book. It can come from a ACEC Designer Utilities Training, because it has utility costs in there. Or some people may contact the district utilities office because they have some utility costs as well that can be provided. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how poles are displayed in utility impact analysis. The pole conflict should be shown in this way to ensure that utility owners' costs will be included in the overall PID project costs. Overhead, there's an electric pole. That's the owner of the pole, number 102. And those relocation costs are here at $25,000 for the pole and the relocation of the electric line. However, the attachees will be shown separately under the same conflict number to avoid clutter. And so each attachee will have its own entry or row for that conflict. So here we have AT&T. In order to relocate telephone lines is around $40 a foot. And the conflict is proposed road, and that's going to cost about $8,000 for that overhead AT&T line. For the next telecom is Lumen. We're assuming $40 a foot for that as well, and that's going to cost $8,000. For cable TV lines, we have an assumption of $30 per foot, and that comes to a total of $6,000. And the other thing that we want to think about as well is for underground fiber optic lines, when they are in conflict with a project, the utility owners do not want to create new splices in their fiber. So they will usually install a new fiber from splice to splice. And we have to include that additional footage with the relocation costs for the fiber. So as you can see here for this Zayo underground line, it's in conflict at station 20 plus 50 to station 22 plus 50, only 200 feet. However, the splices are located 1,200 feet apart. in order to replace that fiber from handhole to handhole, or from splice to splice, we need to assume 1,200 feet. We are assuming $60 per foot for that fiber. And so 60 times that 1,200 feet will give us a total of 72,000. So we put all these costs in the utility impact as designed column. And we're going to also provide a total once we've concluded our utility impact analysis for that PID project. We will provide a total so we can allocate those funds for that project to relocate those utilities. Are there any questions? We appreciate your time viewing this recording, and we hope that the information that we've covered here today will help you make good decisions when preparing a utility impact analysis, but also help you to fill it out with less questions for the SUE office. However, if you do have any questions, you can always contact the SUE team. Aisha Motri is a state subsurface utility engineer, and you can also contact Courtney Lovelace, Mustafa Sek, or myself, Raymond Chandler. Thank you for your time, and have a good day.